Okay, I'm going to kick off the presentation today by inviting you to take a second or two just to think about the last time that you saw a working horse. Did you know that 100 years ago, horses actually played a really important role in the working world? And then along came the internal combustion or car engine. And fast forward to today, and technology continues to disrupt the jobs market. And as it's beginning to do that, we're beginning to ask ourselves, well, how can we ensure that we're not going to end up being put out to pasture with Black Beauty and the likes? Moreover, what can we do to actually future-proof our future careers? Well, in order to answer that, I'm going to focus on a number of different areas that are beginning to emerge today, sprouting up in the working world right now. First, some big businesses around the UK are beginning to realize that in order to continue to play an important role in this increasingly connected and diverse world, the people that work for them need to be more reflective of the world that they're serving in, the people that they're actually serving and working with. So they're beginning to move away from recruiting and hiring the same people from the same sort of backgrounds. And in so doing, they're actually encouraging and enticing more creativity, more innovation, more ideas. And this is enabling the business to do even better. So what does a diverse business actually look like? Well, first, it's likely to be more accessible, to help employees to work at different times, different locations. And there are some really innovative businesses out there right now that are actually taking this to an extreme. They're actually hiring office space as and when they need it and running their business using cloud-based software the rest of the time. If they've got a Wi-Fi signal, then they can operate their business. Interestingly, there are some businesses out there that are doing all of their hiring and firing of employees using software. Diverse business is also likely to have more home and flexible working policies to enable their employees to work at home and or at different times that fit around other sort of responsibilities, such as looking after a relative or perhaps parenting commitments. Since 2015, parents have actually been able to share the amount of time that they sort of take off following the adoption or birth of a child. As gender and sexuality continue to go through change in society, businesses also need to modernize to demonstrate further openness where, for example, women are just as likely to hold senior management roles as men. Both genders can actually demand and secure wages based on their ability, not on the icon on their toilet. Speaking of which, we're also likely to see more gender-neutral washrooms turning up as well. You might also expect businesses to be made up of employees from lots of different ethnic and cultural backgrounds, perhaps like your own school. How would you feel if you turned up to a job and discovered that actually you were the only person from a particular gender, ethnic or cultural background? Sadly, there are some businesses that are still doing that today, but again, change is afoot as businesses begin to realize that actually there are some really positive benefits of being more inclusive. So, for example, this piece of research from McKinsey & Co. It looked at over 1,000 employers from 12 different countries and found that employers with high gender and or ethnic diversity actually perform better in terms of profits compared to other businesses with low levels of ethnic and gender diversity. The research also found that diversity had more of a sort of pronounced effect where it could actually be found in management roles and also those individuals in charge of making money, such as sales teams. Tech companies tend to have a really good range of employees from different ethnic backgrounds, and interestingly, the financial services industry, such as banks, tend to outperform similar businesses when it comes to sort of gender diversity. So, the good news is diversity is happening more and more in the workplace, opening up more and more job opportunities from different people from different sorts of backgrounds. But what about all of those stories about this rise of the robots and artificial intelligence coming along and taking people's jobs? For example, some of you might have been fortunate enough to travel on a Virgin train recently. Some of you might have also visited the talking toilet. Here's how she greets you. Hello, it's me, the toilet. I just wanted to ask if you'd mind not flushing wet wipes, sanitary towels, or nappies. The usual stuff is totally cool. I mean, I knew what I was getting myself into when I applied to be a toilet. Yeah, it's a great job. I used to be a public toilet. And let me tell you, this is a step up. Anyway, you carry on. True story. Now, we don't really know what the jobs market's going to look like in 2050, certainly for you guys, although many agree technology is going to play a big role. It's going to create some great new jobs. It's going to replace some as well. This infographic shows the risk of jobs being replaced by automation, how it varies in different countries. In the UK, over on the right-hand side there, as much as a third of jobs, it looks like they're going to be sort of replaced by automation. But my top tip to you is to stop thinking of jobs as jobs, and instead think of it as a rucksack of skills and tasks. And this is where technology is up to some mischief, because robots and software are being programmed to actually replace or replicate or even improve low-skilled tasks and those easily replicated tasks as well, such as actually collecting and processing data. Some of you might have a smart speaker at home, something like an Amazon Alexa or a Google Home. And I'd like to think to yourself, what sort of things have you been tasking those devices in order to save you a little bit of time? Automation. Okay, so exploring that a little bit further, this infographic shows how some jobs have actually been offshored, sent abroad, where workers with similar sort of skills and abilities are able to do those tasks, but for lower wages. And we've got the robot over here who is able to save employers a little bit more money, and actually there are other benefits for taking on a robot as well. So you might be interested in finding out a little bit more about what sort of jobs are actually going to be at risk in the future. So here we've got some jobs with a sunny outlook. Looks like they're going to be safe in the future, alongside some others which sadly are going to probably struggle in the future jobs market. Let's go back to the idea of the rucksack of skills. Something you might notice is those least at risk up at the top have got more sort of caring skills, whereas these at the bottom tend to involve skills and tasks that could be easy to replicate or even improve upon, such as watch repairers. Okay. So we've now looked at diversity, technological disruption. Finally, I'd like to look at different generations and how they're set to be sort of working together. I'm going to start with mine. I'm a Generation X, and then we're going to be moving to you guys, Generation Z. Okay, so Generation X. Worryingly, we are the first generation that are unlikely to do as well financially as our parents. With Generation Y, or millennials, beginning to dominate the jobs market since 2015, we're seeing younger individuals going through the ranks and taking on senior roles and actually kind of almost replacing us or stepping over us. And we're having to adapt, but that's okay, because actually that's one of our attributes. Moving on to Generation Y. Okay, in 2020, it's predicted that the world's workforce will consist as much of 50% of millennials. This is the first generation of digital natives with schedules. And they actually see education as an incredible expense, tend to be very attached to their gadgets, as illustrated here, and also their parents. They're also remarkably entrepreneurial. Mark Zuckerberg, CEO of Facebook, is a millennial. He also went to Harvard University. He didn't actually complete his studies, interestingly. He's still been very successful. Generation Z, yourselves. So during the last few years, we've begun to see Generation Z enter the workplace. But it's interesting, not just enter the jobs market, but also create your own workplaces, and sometimes tiptoe around higher education. It would seem that you're not against higher education, you're just looking for the right fit for your own individual circumstances. Analysts are now beginning to predict that we're going to see a rising tide of more accessible, lifelong higher education learning for yourselves, your generation, the generation of multitaskers. Okay, so what are my top tips for future-proofing your career then? Well, first, tap into the jobs market using labour market information. It's out there, enables you to explore the sorts of jobs and skills that are in demand in your area now and in the future. Once you can identify these, you can begin to align those to your education and training, which is my second point. Your education and training will result in that rucksack of skills I mentioned earlier, which you can deploy and develop in different jobs. But in order to secure those jobs, you'll need to be able to evidence those skills. How have you acquired them? How have you utilized them? Something you might look to do is actually capture them, write them down. You might want to do that online, something like LinkedIn, a digital CV, or a blog series, which goes on to my fourth point. Keyword there being a professional profile. Finally, guys, think big. Not just with applying for jobs. We recognize that actually many young people like yourselves are probably going to be creating your own jobs, creating your own businesses. You just need ideas, innovation, creativity, and networks. Thank goodness then, you're not one of these. Thank you very much.